went home one night and I said, this is it. Just take me. I just want to go. I don't want to be here anymore and try to figure it out, and I laid on my bed and I could feel myself rising up out of the body.
About your childhood days and things like that, was there ever an inclination towards meditation at that time? Now you are deeply involved. You're also a trainer in Heartfulness Meditation. But can you trace this back to something in childhood? Was there?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't have ever considered myself a seeker through my teens and, my young adult life. But I remember when I was very, very little, I would lay in bed at night and I would play this game with myself that I would try not to think. And I would make myself so still and, try to make my mind so calm. And then as soon as a thought would come in, I would pretend I lost the game and I'd start again, and I'd play this game for so long. And then it faded away and I didn't even remember it. And then when I started Heartfulness, I remembered when my preceptor gave me sittings, I said, oh my God, I used to do this when I was little. I said, it must have been a sign of the future. And he said, no, you probably brought it with you. So there was that. And then I also remember feeling something incredible was going to happen in my life. I remember thinking that very little. I thought something incredible is going to happen. And I didn't know what it was. And then I had forgotten that too until years later. It was actually 2 weeks before I started Heartfulness. I kept feeling like I was having some sort of spiritual awakening. And it was really 2 weeks before I met Brian, my husband, Brian Jones. And I went home one night and I said, this is it. Just take me. I just want to go. I don't want to be here anymore and try to figure it out, and I laid on my bed and I could feel myself rising up out of the body. And I looked down and there was no fear at all. I was just like, okay, this is it. This is what you've been waiting for. You're going to meet God, And then I went back down and I was so angry. I'm like, oh, why? I was all ready. I wasn't afraid. Why are you sending me back here? And then 2 weeks later, I met Brian and the journey began. And then
Brian was already meditating?
He was already meditating for 5 years. Yeah. And then I was getting sittings from John Barlow. And when he gave me a sitting, Babuji was present. And he said, remember the night you wanted to die? He said that was our first meeting.
Wow. You felt that in a sitting?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he felt like his presence was there, and he said, remember the night you wanted to die? That was our first meeting.
So tell us about your first sitting, sister. How was your first sitting when you decided to start meditation? You met Brian before that, right?
We did, but I did meet him before that, before getting the sittings, but I actually meditated for several years before ever having 3 individual sittings. I meditated with Brian. And it was about 3 months after I was meditating every day.
And this was the first kind of meditation you tried, or was there anything before?
No, it was the first one. And I remember I had my first genuine spiritual experience, and I came out of the room and I said to Brian, I said, I think I met God. That's because I didn't know what it was, because I grew up very Catholic, very Italian, Jesus was on every wall. So I didn't know how else to relate to what it was, But then I said to Brian, I said, I think we should plan to go see Babuji, because I kept thinking, how am I having this experience with this man over in India and I live here in America? How can this be,
Never having met him.
No. And Brian kept saying, I'm telling you, this is the real deal, So we worked, our way to save our money. We didn't have much money. We were young, and we made it to Germany to meet Babuji. And the closer we got to the house, Brian and I kept looking at each other. It's like the ground doesn't feel the same. And when I walked in, my first thought upon seeing him was, I have to have what you have.
So you met Babuji in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time
Yes.
that you met him. And was there any other times that you met?
Yeah, we met him in 1982 in Paris,
Mm-hmm.
and he was very different.
Must have been frail because
he was so frail and nobody was seeing him.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going to meet some friends at a cafe, and I was coming down the steps, and one of the French brothers said, Babuji's awake, do you want to come in? And so I went in the room, and it was just me and another sister, and she was sobbing, and I sat down, and Babuji was smoking his hookah and never looked at me. He just was smoking the hookah and looking up at, I don't know, whatever he was seeing. And all of a sudden he said, I will be leaving soon. And I started to cry. And the girl had one Kleenex and she ripped it in half and she handed it to me. And I said, what am I going to do without you? I finally found you. What am I going to do without you? You can't leave yet. And then he said, I will be with you for all eternity.